Good afternoon. I'm District Attorney Champ Crocker, joined here by Sheriff Matt Gentry. This is a sad day for law enforcement, but at the same time, it is a good day for the rule of law. The Grand Jury of Cullman County has recently returned multiple felony and misdemeanor indictments on 5 Hanceville police officers and 1 spouse of an officer. As DA, I would like to thank several agencies and individuals for their assistance in this investigation. The Alabama State Bureau of Investigation, Special Agent Jamie King, who led this investigation. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall and his staff. The Attorney General's office reviewed these charges before we took them to the grand jury, and General Marshall and I have remained in close contact throughout this process. The Alabama Ethics Commission and Special Agent Chris McKay, Cullman County Sheriff Matt Gentry and his staff for their assistance, as well as the Cullman Police Department, who provided assistance, and the Wallace State Police Force, who responded in this case. I'm going to go through the charges and the individuals at this time, and we're going to have something on the screen. The Cody Allen Kelso, 2 counts of computer tampering, solicitation to commit a controlled substance crime, use of office for personal gain, and tampering with physical evidence. Jason Scott Wilbanks, 2 counts of computer tampering, 2 counts use of office for personal gain, 2 counts solicitation to commit a controlled substance crime, and tampering with physical evidence. Jason Shane Marlin, 2 counts of failure to report an ethics crime and tampering with physical evidence. William Andrew Shelnut, tampering with physical evidence, 1 count. Eric Michael Kelso, 4 counts, unlawful distribution of a controlled substance, 2 counts, conspiracy to unlawfully distribute a controlled substance. His spouse, Donna Reid Kelso, 2 counts, unlawful distribution of a controlled substance, 2 counts, conspiracy to unlawfully distribute a controlled substance. All charges are felonies, with the exception of tampering with physical evidence, which is a Class A misdemeanor. The grand jury, and I'm going to speak about the grand jury and their work, but first I want to tell you the grand jury's findings and recommendations, which were unanimous and made public by the grand jury. I'm going to read these 9 points for you. Number 1, that any current or former officer of Hanceville Police Department indicted be suspended from law enforcement by the Alabama Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission. Number 2, that the Hanceville Police Department be immediately abolished. Number 3, that another law enforcement agency, whether local or state, be tasked with protecting the citizens of Hanceville. Number 4, based upon the investigation by the State Bureau of Investigation, we, the grand jury, find that the Hanceville Police Department is a particular and ongoing threat to public safety. Number 5, that there is a rampant culture of corruption in the Hanceville Police Department, which has recently operated as more of a criminal enterprise than a law enforcement agency. Number 6, that the Hanceville Police Department has abused public trust by its failure of oversight, lack of leadership, and negligent training and hiring. Number 7, that the Hanceville Police Department has failed to account for, preserve, and maintain evidence, and in doing so has failed crime victims and the public at large. This evidence is unusable. Number 8, this grand jury toured the Hanceville jail on February 12, 2025. We, the grand jury, have zero confidence in the Hanceville Police Department's ability to maintain a jail or to meet basic health and safety needs of jail personnel or inmates. Number 9, that the death of former Hanceville dispatcher Chris Willingham is the direct result of Hanceville Police Department's negligence, lack of procedure, general incompetence, and disregard for human life. Signed by the foreman, February 14th, 2025. I want to thank this grand jury. Only the grand jury knows all of the facts in this case. The grand jury was 18 people from all walks of life and different backgrounds from all over Cullman County. They took an oath to diligently inquire indictable offenses without malice or fear and to the best of their ability. Before we started, the grand jury and I said a prayer together, and we asked that the Lord's wisdom and discernment guide every part of this process. They reviewed the evidence for days, and they weren't afraid to ask tough questions. This grand jury upheld their oaths on behalf of the citizens of Cullman County, and they were unanimous in their recommendations, and they were unanimous in all the indictments that I've listed. I want to talk about the evidence room, and we're going to have another slide for you. One of the most concerning things that we discovered in this process was that Hanceville Police Department's evidence room was not secure. Criminal evidence must be secured in order to have that evidence for prosecution and to ensure due process. This evidence room was anything but secure. This photo here is the outside wall to the evidence room, and you will see this hole in the evidence room. This picture was taken on August 23rd, 2024. You will also notice a broomstick in the corner that is green with a white handle on it. And in the next couple slides, you will see what that broomstick was used for in this hole. And I'm not going to name the individual pictured here. This is someone who works there. And you can see this individual has this stick in his hand and is pushing it in the door, in the hole, to jimmy open the door. And the grand jury watched a lot of videos. This is from security camera footage showing this evidence room was routinely accessed by individuals who were not authorized to do so, going in and out using this stick through the hole in the wall. And we have one more photo of that. This is from the same transaction here where this individual who had the stick is actually sticking his head and upper body into the hole, attempting to jimmy open the door, which was a quite common occurrence. That's our final slide for that. I want to say this for the citizens of Hanceville. The citizens of Hanceville deserve equal protection under the law. They deserve to have a safe community just like everyone else in this county. I have been in touch with Hanceville officials this week. Mayor Sawyer and the council have pledged their full cooperation throughout this process. This morning, Hanceville Municipal Judge Heath Maherg entered an order calling for an audit of the evidence room, and he is joining me in asking state officials to conduct that audit. With these indictments, these officers find themselves on the opposite end of the laws they were sworn to uphold. Wearing a badge is a privilege and an honor, and that most law enforcement officers take seriously. A badge is not a license to corrupt the administration of justice. And when law enforcement officers abuse their power, they do damage to the public's trust in law enforcement. Our law enforcement officers in this county put their lives on the line every day to protect the citizens. And those officers who would break the law diminish the sacrifices of the overwhelming majority of officers who protect and serve. And when law enforcement officers do not meet the standard that they should, they will be held accountable. Now, we will allow some time for questions. I'm not going to discuss the facts of these cases. I will answer any general questions to the extent possible, but first I will defer to Sheriff Gentry.
Thank you, DA. You know, there's nothing more important to us in law enforcement than good, honest law enforcement. When we have those that do wrong, it hurts us all. The reason I'm standing here today with the district attorney because I believe in doing what's right. But I also want to stand up for the law enforcement men and women of the sheriff's office, men and women of the police department here in Cullman, troopers, and law enforcement across the state of Alabama for the 99% that do what is right. We always hear there's the 1%. Well, today you're seeing the 1%. But we always have to stand up for what's right. And those men and women that go out every day to make a sacrifice that we're protected. The other issue I want to address is once I knew the grand jury's findings and the report, myself and members of the command staff started meeting to assure the citizens of Hanceville one thing: safety. And I want to speak to those citizens. I know right now that you're going through a range of emotions from anger, hurt, all of the things that we feel when our trust has been betrayed, fear. But I can assure you, members of the sheriff's office here in Cullman County, we have already met. I have spoken to members of Hanceville, the mayor and the council. We will do what is necessary to protect our citizens in Hanceville, because they're not just citizens of Hanceville, they're citizens of Cullman County. And as sheriff, we protect all citizens of Cullman County. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 and a half years, and that's what I'll continue to do. Days like this come and go, but good law enforcement will stand the test of time. And I'm pleased to be standing here with the district attorney and all of those that do what is right. So thank you for being here, and thank you for getting out the truth.
So the grand jury found that the Hanceville Police Department is a particular and ongoing threat to public safety. Can you expand on what that threat is? Can you tell us how it's an ongoing threat to public safety?
I believe that finding was based on the charges themselves, based on their observations of the conduct that had been going on. The charges that go to that finding speak for themselves.
Do you expect any other charges going with this?
For these defendants, I do not expect any other charges unless there is new evidence. As for anyone else, I can't say at this time.
It says the police department should be abolished. Is that happening?
You would have to ask the city of Hanceville about that. I have not heard of what their plans are in that respect.
So these recommendations are made to the city of Hanceville, and then they take action on them?
The recommendations have been made to the public at large, and then whatever action is taken will be up to the mayor and the council.
And what's going to happen with these cases that the evidence has been tampered with?
Some of those cases are in the municipal court of Hanceville. Some of those cases, if they're felonies, are cases that we handle in state court. We are going to begin a review process of all those cases. We will look at those on a case-by-case basis. I am not optimistic about the ability to prosecute cases with tampered evidence.
Do you know how many cases there are?
We are working on that. One is too many.
Can you touch on the dispatcher that passed away? It mentions here negligence from the police department. What happened in his case, Mr. Willingham, what happened in his case as to why there was negligence that led to his death?
Well, the grand jury reviewed a lot of material. Not all of it was the subject of charges. No one was charged in these indictments with Mr. Willingham's death. However, the SBI obtained a good bit of security camera footage and so forth, And let me say this. I'm not here to defend Chris Willingham, and I'm not here to tear him down. He has a family and friends. He's been around for a long time. But the unfettered access that a lot of people had to the evidence room, I believe, is the basis for that recommendation.
And I'm making that
Sheriff?
something. So let me add something to that. So anytime in law enforcement, you're held accountable to all actions. One of the most important things that we can do for the prosecution of crimes is a chain of custody. So you must set a standard for that chain and the ability to keep it secure at first go. And when that is not met, you see incidents and things that has happened like we're talking about today. So, you know, it's a task to ensure that that is the level of security that you need. And there's a lot of policies and procedures in place. If law enforcement agencies go by those and do what's right, it's never a question. One of the things at the sheriff's office is we get audited every couple of years by the state. One of the things they do is review our evidence room. And so you have to have those measures in place to provide that security and accountability for law enforcement.
So to follow up on that, the coroner released to us that his cause of death was due to fentanyl, right? So are you trying to say here maybe fentanyl was not kept in a secure place that may have led to maybe too much exposure to Mr. Willingham's death?
Well,
I would just say that nothing was secure about the evidence room, and when Mr. Willingham was discovered, there was evidence in his office.
Have
Okay.
those 5 officers that charges brought against them, are they still employed by the city of Hanceville? And if not, Hanceville is then down 5 officers. Is the Cullman County Sheriff going to increase patrols in the city?
I'm not sure what everyone's status is. I would defer to the city of Hanceville to update you on what the status of those officers is. And I would just mention this about the chain of custody and why that is so important. When we go to court and we are introducing evidence from the evidence locker, part of our burden is showing that that evidence in the courtroom, whether it's guns, drugs, whatever, is the evidence that was seized by the officer who made the arrest. And the chain of custody goes into effect from the minute an officer seizes evidence in terms of documented who handled it, where it went. Maybe it's taken out to go get forensic testing at the state crime lab. That happens. It comes back. It's sealed and is secured. And that is how prosecution is done, is we have to prove the integrity of that process. You cannot have a prosecution if you do not have the integrity of the evidence.
The fentanyl that was in Mr. Willingham's system, did he intend to get into the evidence room, or was it not secured and he came across it and that's what killed him?
Say that Mr. Willingham was given access to the evidence room through what you just saw, and he had access to it on his last day at work.
and let me answer, there was kind of the similar questions. We have not received a formal request yet at the sheriff's office to take over the Hanceville area in Cullman County, but we are making preparations. Our command staff, the deputies know, because number one, their number of officers is down, so we're already making preparations to be responding to calls to ensure the citizens of Hanceville are safe and secure and taken care of by the sheriff's office.
Do we know how many officers are left now at this point with Hanceville PD?
We do not. I do not.
If it is disbanded, will you all solely take over, or will Aaliyah come in?
No, we will take it over. If they are disbanded, I've already spoke with the chairman, the county commission. We've already started negotiations with the leadership in Hanceville to see what it would look like. But we would take over all responsibilities from patrol in that area, investigation in that area, dispatch, and or the jail. Of course, you know, we have the jail here where we run over 400 inmates a day. So.
Now, you did mention the Hanceville jail and the conditions, and there were subpar. Can you give us some more
You know, that was a recommendation the grand jury made. I have not physically been in their jail. You know, one of the requirements of a grand jury is to come through and inspect our facility every time they meet. So for us, we take a lot of pride in our facility and the way we run our detention center. I would assume that what they saw was not up to par. But if we take over inmates for Hanceville, we will not use their facility. They will be coming to our facility.
What happened to those inmates that were in the Hanceville jail?
If the sheriff's office takes over the Hanceville jail, then those inmates will be transferred to our facility. We currently house the city of Cullman's inmates, county inmates, state inmates, and we also have federal inmates. So we would just shift them to us.
So no one should be in there right now, today?
Well, we've not taken over the facility yet. No, we have not.
Did Willingham have a previous drug history, and did he obtain the drugs on his own?
I don't want to get into Mr. Willingham's history out of respect for him and his family, but Mr. Willingham was given access, like a lot of other people, to the evidence room.
Mr. Williams, the only death that is associated with the Hanceville Police Department?
Repeat that question.
Is Mr. Williams the only death associated with the Hanceville Police Department?
I'm not aware of any others. Mr. Speakman.
Speak on the, sentencing ranges as far as, jail time, prison time, felony versus misdemeanors with it?
So the misdemeanors that were charged in these cases are Class A misdemeanors. Under Alabama law, they carry up to 1 year of confinement. All of the felonies that were charged in these cases are Class B felonies, which carry 2 to 20.
Did they make bond?
My understanding is that these defendants have all made bond. The sheriff might can speak more to that. I believe they were arrested and turned in today.
Sure. All of the defendants have made valid bonds through one means, whether it was a secured bonding company, secured property bonds, but all have made bonds currently.
Sheriff, were any of these officers ever employed by the Cullman County Sheriff's Office?
Sure. So that's a great question, and it kind of answers itself. There were a couple that had been employed by us, but I will say this. If you come to work here and your values and standards and integrity does not meet ours, then you won't be employed here long. You'll either move on or you'll be terminated. And so with that question of they used to be, they no longer work here for the few that did.
Were they terminated?
A couple, correct.
Can you give us some more information on how Ms. Donna Kelso, the spouse, was involved in this? Was she allowed in the evidence room? Was she just tampering with evidence in general?
No, so her husband, Eric Kelso, was a reserve officer at the city of Hanceville, but there is no evidence that she was ever in the evidence room, that she ever tampered with any evidence. She is not charged with that. The charges against her are based on other things. And I would say that the indictments have all been made public. They are on file at the Cullman County Courthouse in the clerk's office. And those indictments, we have to give defendants notice of what they're accused of doing. Those indictments spell that out a little bit more.
Does this have anything to do with any other case, or is it really just to do with evidence room?
I don't want to get into other investigations. I would just say that several agencies have worked very hard to bring these cases to justice.
How long do you think this corruption and tampering of evidence has been going on, and when were you guys first alerted that this all could have been happening?
These allegations, that there are dates in the indictments, and the dates in the indictments for these charges are all based on things that happened in 2024. And so I cannot speak as to what was going on before that because we deal in proof.
A chief of police is hired by the city. I'm not sure when the chief of police may have been hired, but, it's up to the council, the mayor. How is the people of Hanceville supposed to entrust their council and mayor to hire another police chief or more officers?
Well, I can't speak as to their relationship to the mayor and the council, but I think it is important for the citizens of Hanceville to know that when something is done, my office, state agencies, sheriff's office are going to be there to assist them. The mayor and the council have pledged their full cooperation with this process going forward, and I take them at their word.
And I mean,
Sheriff Gentry, I have a question for you. How do you feel today knowing that, as a man who upholds the law, that you are now having to arrest your colleagues today?
well, unfortunately, in the last 25 and a half years, this is not the first time. And so, it really breaks your heart. It breaks your heart when you have men and women that are sworn to uphold the truth, and they break the trust of the public. The sheriff's office here, I've been blessed the last 25 and a half years of my career. The last almost 11 as sheriff. And we have a motto here, which of course you can see our seal and our beliefs. But the office of sheriff doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to the deputies. It belongs to all of us. And when good law enforcement and honest law enforcement and the citizens stand shoulder to shoulder, that's a bond that's unbreakable. And so it really hurts those that do what's right every day, day in and day out, to protect the citizens when you have a few that make bad choices. And it really, it's heartbreaking for us, because now we have to defend ourselves more to doing what's right. And really, it shouldn't be that way. We took an oath to do what's right, and it should be that way. But when you deal with people and you deal with decisions, these are things that come across. But the one thing that I'm proud of since this morning, and I've been very blessed to be in Cullman County, but since this morning, I've had citizens from Cullman County, other areas across the state that reach out and support us and say, we know y'all do what's right. You had a few that made bad decisions, but we will always be there to support the good law enforcement at the sheriff's office and other agencies in Cullman County that do what's right. So for me, that gives me hope. When we have those leadership, we have the citizens that reach out and say that, that gives me all the hope to continue on and do what we do.
Do we know they were directly distributing anything, and is that why they may be considered a threat to public safety?
Repeat that question for me.
Do we know if the people accused in this case were directly distributing anything, maybe from the evidence room, and is that why they're considered a threat to public safety?
So the distribution charges are not based on distribution of anything within the evidence room, although that was going on at the same time. The indictments you'll see the detail in those that the grand jury found that Mr. and Mrs. Eric and Donna Kelso are accused of distributing certain drugs to other individuals, including some of these other defendants.
And I can help just clear up a little bit of that too.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Sheriff.
I think anytime you have men and women that are placed in leadership, anytime you do anything that is not honorable, it breaks the trust of the public. And I think you see that across the nation. We see it in national politics. We see it all the way down to the local levels of law enforcement, to even local levels of leadership. When you break that trust of honor, people don't trust and they fear it.
And we are close to wrapping up, but sir, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, Mayor Sawyer told us this morning that 3 officers turned themselves in. Can you confirm if they turned themselves in, or how were these officers arrested?
All the defendants in these cases turned themselves in. Yes.
And the tampering with evidence charges, was that to cover up the cause of death, to cover up where the drugs were coming from? Could you expand on, the motive behind tampering with evidence?
Yes, the allegation in the indictments on all 4 evidence tampering charges is that those defendants mishandled or removed evidence from the evidence room. Thank you very much.